Welcome back to Legal AI Conversations. I'm Rok, founder of MPL Advisors. We help legal teams adopt AI safely and figure out what works and what doesn't. Today, I'm joined by Justin Turman. He's worked with some of the big in-house legal teams. Together, we're breaking down why most AI tools fail, how to actually get your processes right, and what lawyers should focus on before wasting months on testing AI tools. Let's jump into it. So we can jump straight into where you started and how you got where you are.
So thank you for having me on, first of all. It's a pleasure for me to be here. My name is Justin. I'm an American lawyer. Before studying law, I studied computers and linguistics because American lawyers don't go straight to law. We study all kinds of stuff. You see lawyers who have a degree in engineering, psychology. I met one who even had a degree in dance. So he did like ballet. So you have all different kinds of American lawyers. So we all bring these different skill sets. My skill set is with computers and languages. So when I started practicing law, I first started in-house in a corporation, and yeah, I realized that there were patterns to my work. This was 10 years ago, and there was so much manual work, and it was pretty much the same thing over and over and over. It was just slight differences in patterns. And I realized I could apply computers to this. And so that's what I decided. I decided I'm going to automate the hell out of all of this work. And what I focused on was not just the purely legal, like the analysis of documents and stuff. What I focused first on was the administrative part. Because when you're working in a large corporation, the money for automation and systems, it usually goes to sales, the part of the company that's bringing money in. The legal department is just kind of ignored. And the lawyers, second of all, they don't have an imagination for technology, usually. They're usually just doing things manually. They're opening up Outlook and Word, and they're just doing things the same way things have always been done, and as manual. If you're lucky and they've thought about it, maybe they started a spreadsheet, and that's about the extent of it, right? So yeah, I applied my skills to it. I opened up Microsoft Office, which is what most of us have in corporations, and I just started learning how to automate the hell out of all of it. One major point was that requests, no matter what they are, they need to come in not through a random email, but they need to come in a structured way. I need to have all the data points that I need from you. And often a person will just reach out to a lawyer and say, hello, I need help. And then that starts this 2 week conversation like, what kind of help do you need? Oh, I need help with a contract. Oh, what type of contract? Oh, I'm selling this. Oh, at what price? What's the color? What is the date? I need these data points. Stop just emailing me. And then there's no record of the work that I'm doing, right? Nobody can say how much work I'm doing. It's not being measured. It's not structured. It's just in email boxes. So this was one of the major things that I did. And then I looked down the pipeline to like the 20 rest of the steps as well. And I just automated one at a time, at a time, at a time, until I had about 90% of my work was automated. The last 10% was like purely legal issues. And even at that point, a lot of the legal questions that I would get, they were the same answers over and over and over again. So I created kind of like a frequently asked questions, but it was like on steroids. You could go to like any paragraph in any contract that we owned. It's our template. We own this stuff. They could go there, and the document or my system, it would answer most of the questions that they had. And so I told them, if you have a question about any paragraph, just go to the system, look at it. It probably answers your question, and you can go on and do whatever you need. Go make that sale. You don't need to email legal and then have lawyers get involved and sitting on this for weeks when it's the same question you're always asking, right? So
Yeah.
so yeah, I got rid of like the standard questions, and I told them then only reach out to me when you have a new question. that's not written down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting because so you're advocating highly for automating office work. And even before AI was here, you were already doing that with pretty
Mhm.
straightforward just knowledge organization and document organization, making it easy to search and find for. So can I ask you from this perspective, where do you now fast forward, you're a consultant and you're actually advising firms to do that, and you're
Mhm.
helping them to kind of organize and yeah, deploy those mechanisms. Where do you now see the biggest value for those automations with AI?
So I would say put in place something like this first. Figure out like what is the menu of things that our department, our team, what is it that we do? And when somebody comes to us with that type of request, what are all the data points that need to be in there? Because I don't want to have an interview with you. Now, you could, once this is in place, you have everything written down nicely, you could then train an AI on this. What I would be very cautious about is jumping straight to AI, because if a team, let's say I have like 20 lawyers on a team, we're not even aligned on what it is we do. Right.
Yeah,
We don't, and maybe we even have different roles. Like somebody does different contracts than somebody else, but I don't know what you do. I only know what I do. And so nobody knows the whole picture. And
yeah.
then if you were just to bring in AI and say, let's put a chatbot here to have a nice conversation with people, I'm afraid it's going to try to be really, really helpful, and it might even start hallucinating things.
A lot.
It doesn't
Yeah,
know who does what because nobody knows who does what. And then if you take my approach and you have like a menu system, and then you have the specific questions, the AI now has a script of
yeah.
exactly what to ask. It knows the data
Yeah,
points.
that's a so to build on top of that. So I get a lot of pushback when working with smaller firms or especially solo attorneys, right? When I try to advocate for the approach that you're describing here, which I truly believe is the only way to get you there and to get you there fast, actually. The pushback is we're not an enterprise, we're not a big law firm, we don't have the resources to go through all these processes to get something done. We just want to test those 5 tools now. Now, the thing is that by just testing those 5 tools, none of them work. You're just wasting a lot of time. And in the end, the realization is if you have files named 001, I actually posted today on about this on LinkedIn. Like if you have file 0013456-2, right? No single AI is going to help you because it's just plugging different types of things that it doesn't understand because there is no descriptive thing for it to search from. So how do you get pushback on this, on trying to, because this is more of a behavioral change, more of a change management thing, to start thinking about processes, foundations, how to organize it, how to map everything, and then plug any kind of automation on top of it.
Mhm.
How do you deal with that with your clients?
So it depends, right? It depends the maturity of the organization. It depends on what they want to do. Where do they want to go? I started doing this for myself when I was in-house. I realized the things that I could control, those are the things that you can change. If I'm going to try to like force everybody else to change their behavior, it's less likely that that's going to succeed. So I looked and saw like what is the process of a person reaching out to me, and I can control that. If they email me, I can control how I react. I can start building, finding the patterns of exactly how these conversations are going. I can write down. So I'm aligning and giving the same kind of level of service every time, right? You're finding how can we standardize this. Then I also reached out to the broader team of my legal team, and I said, hey guys, we all are doing kind of similar stuff, but we don't know what everybody does. Although there were a lot of contracts where we were doing the same thing, but we had different ideas. We had different ideas of like, what is the strategy behind this? Like even asking a lawyer, what does this legalese mean in plain English? You'll get a different answer. We all think it means different things. And then the next question of what is negotiable? How can we change this? What is the process of changing this? Because also it's not just lawyers moving words around in a document, there are impacts on the rest of the business. I'll give an example. If I change the payment days for finance from like 60 days to 90 days or down to 45 days or whatever. Yes, for me as a lawyer, that is so easy to do. I know how to do that. I can look at the past history, and I can even have an AI, and it can look at the history like, can I change this? And it'll say, yes, you've done it before. You've done it many times. But what the AI doesn't know, and what nobody can know by looking at the history of the contracts, is that you have to get permission from finance. Finance needs to do a calculation. It's going to impact their cash flow. They need to look and see, do we have enough money on hand to allow for this? And if we do, we will add it to a spreadsheet. So then we can use that in future calculations for future transactions. So you see, you can't just make changes. You need to know the process. And I'm afraid AI can't tell you that just by looking at the document.
Yeah, true. And also somebody coming from the outside, however good of an engineer they are, nobody can automate this for you in 2 weeks because they don't understand the nuances of the processes.
So we started it first as a legal team. We started looking at all of our templates because we found that like 70 or 80% of our contracts were on our own templates. I know people want to engineer like the negotiation of somebody else's document. Good luck. That's much more difficult. Like, you don't know what you're going to get. But if you know your own document, you know the paragraphs that exist. I sat down with my team of 5 lawyers, and we went through paragraph by paragraph because we would often get questions from the business. The business would ask, like we took the approach that a sales contract was owned by sales. Like, we owned the template, but the actual like transaction and when it became like a contract, it was owned by sales. So we told them, here's the template, go negotiate it yourself. Good luck. Well, those poor salespeople, they don't speak legalese, right? So their very first question would be, what does this mean in plain English? Or even if they didn't ask, they would go and they would have a meeting with another salesperson in another company. The two of them aren't lawyers. They're looking at this legal mumbo jumbo, and they say, I don't understand what this means. And the other one says, I don't either. And then they shake hands and they say, we agreed to get rid of this. And then they send an email to legal. We agreed to throw this out because it makes no sense. And I say, no, you can't. It's performing a very important strategy. It is doing this. So instead of having these emails all the time and this confusion, what we did was we went through paragraph by paragraph, and we had 2 questions next to each paragraph. The first paragraph was, what does this mean in plain English? And what is the strategy that it's performing? So right there, we told, first of all, we had to get aligned ourselves as a team of 5 lawyers because we didn't agree on anything. But after some time, we agreed on what it was. So then we had that. The next question that we answered was, what is changeable in this paragraph? And how can you get it changed? So there would be a lot of things that weren't even legal. They were finance issues. They were delivery. They were something else, logistics. And so instead of having the business emailing legal asking, can we change finance terms? We would put right in there, this is a finance term. To change it, you have to go ask finance.
Yeah.
Or we would also realize like these really simple little things, like changing the governing law from the country where we are versus the country where the customer is. Like we discussed as a legal team, being in Europe, we didn't really care. We don't care as long as it's in somebody's country that makes sense. As long as it's one of those, we don't care. So we would put in there, you can always change this from our home country to the customer's country. And we just put it right there. We also saw some things that we would give them fallback language, like try this next, try this third, but don't give the whole thing away because there's a strategy by going down the ladder. We would also realize that there were some issues that were just too complex. We could not write them down in a simple instruction. So we identified these complex legal issues, and we would say something like, this is a complex legal issue. Here is the default language. If the other side wants to change it, It's going to take a long time. It generally takes like 3 to 6 months for legal to figure this out with regulatory and data privacy and all the others. So, you know what this encouraged the business to do? They pushed back. They told the other side, like, look, we could change this. It's going to take us 6 months. And the other side just goes, oh, we'll take it then.
Yeah.
So we empowered the business. What a great thing to do. We
And you
empowered
did
them.
that,
They didn't.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you did that by very boring work, which is breaking down and documenting every single step and its sub-step in the
Mhm.
process. So you were able to do that, and that's exactly what you need to do with AI. The thing here is that it doesn't matter if you're a solo attorney or if you're a big firm. You gotta do this with AI, and I think that
Got it.
firms that are a little bit bigger, that have departments that have to cross communicate, therefore they need to have processes written down, are a little bit more used to coming in and telling them, hey, this is what you need for AI. But solo attorneys, they don't have that. They have it in their head, and maybe they have an assistant. Maybe there's 2, 3 attorneys, and all of them are doing things in their own way, as you said, but it's okay. It still kind of goes, and it will go for a while, right? But now that they want AI, now you gotta jump forward and you gotta take care of this foundation first. You gotta build your centralized storage. You need to start
Mhm.
implementing naming conventions, and you need to start thinking about it's not enough to tell AI to create a draft of this contract based on a few notes that you give it. You need to communicate very clearly what are your detailed steps in the process that you take when you create a draft for the contract. So that's a big mentality switch here, and I do appreciate. I checked your website, even have to admit, way before I reached out to you on LinkedIn, and I saw how many very detailed resources you have, and I suggest everybody to check this website. Can you say the name out loud?
AutomateOfficeWork.com. So I left corporate life after 10 years. Um,
Yeah,
I, I started just automating all the office work in a legal department. The legal department was it was about 400 people when I left, and so yeah, I had a lot of work automating. I worked as a consultant very much because you can imagine making any kind of a change in a huge organization. It's very, very difficult.
yeah,
I'm envious of you getting to help smaller organizations because I envision that it's much easier to make change. I
yeah,
left after 10 years and I created my own consulting company called Automate Office Work. We focus on automating the repeatable kind of stuff that you kind of need if you want to go on to do the fancy stuff, right? In my experience, it was about 85% of my work was this admin work. Admin
yeah,
work I define as anything that doesn't really add value, that you don't need expertise to do it, like a law degree, and you could just get a computer to do it. So why aren't we getting a computer to do it? This is the stuff that nobody wants to do, so people are motivated to adopt it. And then what I tell them is then you get to focus on the 15% of your leftover work that adds value. And then maybe you can use AI or something more sophisticated to tackle the rest of the 15% work. But if you go straight to the AI kind of stuff and you don't have the foundation, good luck. And even in the very best case, even if you did get rid of that 15% of work with your AI, you still have the 85% left over, the garbage work that you didn't want to do anyway.
yeah. Um, how do you see? So I guess that the adoption of AI is very fragmented, right? Even
Yeah.
across big firms, even if you compare a mid firm to a mid firm. And what is the stage that you usually come in, and what do you see? How is
Good.
usually the adoption? Let's say, how do they pilot their AI tools? How do they even come to a conclusion what they're going to pilot?
Okay. So yeah,
AI.
I have different kinds of clients that are in different stages, of course. Um, So the clients that usually come to me are very, very large corporations. They've bought some $1 million AI thing and it didn't work. And it might be that it didn't work because they weren't ready. They didn't have the workflows. They didn't have the organized data to train it. And they suddenly saw that you can't just buy a solution. Like somebody has to actually set it up. And yeah, it's hard work, I know. But another part of this is even if the technology is perfect, we're working with human beings, and people have their own kind of quirks. You have to have a culture of change and bring the people along with you. So yeah, I see clients who have these kinds of struggles with implementing technology. So they come to me and they say, "Can you please just meet us where we are? Like this is the tools that we're using. We don't need to revolutionize and change everybody's behavior. Can you just take what I'm doing right now and just make it go faster?" Can you connect the dots of what I'm doing and make it go fast? Or you can even look at what I'm doing and maybe we can make what I'm doing more efficient. Maybe I'm doing things that don't need to be done at all. So there's no point in automating stuff that doesn't need to be done. You get that? So yeah, I'll meet with them. We put in something that meets their needs, that fits what they want to be doing and make it go faster. We then have the workflow is mapped out, and then we have organized data is being created through these automations. And then after about 6 months of this, then I tell them, okay, are you ready to go to AI now? You have the workflows down, you have the data, you could go to AI. At that point, then it's more of a cost analysis for them, because now they're going to say, well, we have a person who's being paid, I don't know, 50,000 a year, and the work is going very quickly for them, and we know exactly what they're doing. Yes, it is manual, but it's being done nicely. Or we could buy an AI for 1 million a year, and it'll do basically the same thing. And you
With
see, now
reliability.
there's a cost analysis,
Yeah, yeah.
and you use what makes sense.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I note down. I noted down a few points when you were talking because very,
Okay.
very strong ones, and we can learn a lot, I think, from them. I have one that I want to ask you later, but I think that when you said connecting the dots, that's most of the work, and building the foundation of the data, actually creating the foundation of the data. This is, I think, something that shows us that that is not being done in most of the companies that actually jump into trying to buy AI. Um, and looking at the process, and most of the time the AI is not the solution, because when you figure out the inefficiencies of the process and you can polish them, already that gives you so much value. And then connecting the dots, just so we're talking about data engineering, and that's also what I'm seeing, that most of the people in this hype are a bit confused what AI actually does and what is done by just normal computer software engineering, by connecting the dots between two systems for information to come from point A to point B. And that is not done by AI. That is pure data engineering, if you want to call it that way, if you want to make it more fancy, but it's literally just connecting the dots. That's very interesting. And may I ask you, some of your clients that have bought bigger solutions, such as
Mhm.
Harvey. So what are because I do have a lot of conversations with solo attorneys that are saying, like, I want something like Harvey, but I can't afford Harvey. So like, what can we look for in that kind of range that does the same thing? And what are your experiences with your clients' experiences with Harvey and tools like that?
So I haven't had a client use Harvey. My clients are not law firms. My clients are the in-house legal teams. They are dealing with all different kinds of things that are not just contracts. They're dealing with like investigations. They're dealing with requests from law enforcement agencies. They're dealing with like data privacy and cybersecurity issues. Like something gets breached. What do we need to do, and who's doing it, and where is all the data, and legal, did we do everything we need to do, kind of thing. Legal is more like managing these things. And if you are making up the processes as you go, it's going to be crazy. Nobody knows what they're doing because there's no template, right? And we're managing other departments that are not our own. So there needs to be really, really good communication, and not just like I emailed. You can't just say, well, I emailed HR, my job is done. No, there has to be a follow up. Did they actually do what they said they were going to do? When they did it, was it good enough? Did you review what they did? So if you just are dependent on email kind of stuff, good luck, because you're not going to remember all of this in your head. And oh, you're going to keep a spreadsheet? No, you're not. And even if you do have a spreadsheet, how does everybody else in the company have access to your spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
So we put in place like all these like templates and processes. If something happens, it triggers something. It doesn't trigger just an email to somebody. No, it triggers a task, which then the system can look every day. Are there any tasks that are outstanding? And they're overdue. Okay, it'll send an automated email to that person. You still have more tasks to do. And when they do a task, they don't just email you back. No, we need this in a permanent system of record where everybody can see it, everybody knows where everything's at, we can see the changes over time. And yeah, I do see a lot of companies that they want to focus on contracts for this. And what I tell my clients is like, if you are in a mature place where you can use one of these systems, that's great. What about every other thing that you're working on that's not a contract? You don't have you don't have a solution for these in a lot of cases. And even the ones that maybe they do want to go to a system, they recognize they're not ready for it. They don't know all the workflows. They don't know all, like if there's a cybersecurity incident, who do we reach out to? Because every company is going to be different. So you can't just buy it off the shelf and be like, okay,
Yeah, true, true. So that's the thing. You can't buy
yeah.
it off the shelf. So off-the-shelf solutions that promise you to plug in your data with 5 clicks, and you can talk to your data, and it can do things for you
Uh-huh.
proactively. I think are a bit of an
I,
oversell in this hype zone.
I,
Yeah,
I did see, I gotta say that they might have a place for you in certain steps, but it's likely not going to meet all of your needs. I recently went to a demo. It was, should I say the name?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. I went to a Wordsmith demo. Looks like a wonderful tool. It's a company out of Scotland.
I
They
know.
came to Amsterdam,
Yeah,
and
one of my
I
colleagues is
saw their
using it.
demo.
Yeah.
Their demo looks very interesting. They say like you can have a huge email conversation in the company about like limits and for signing authority, like the amounts of money, and and they said once everybody is ready, then we send an email to legal. And now legal can just take that huge email and put it into the AI, and it will draft your legal signature authority matrix thing. Okay, that sounds really good. That sounds amazing to me. My question was, who decided who to involve in the discussions that were before that? How do they know that they got every single department and team who needed to be in that discussion? How do we know that they were there?
Yeah.
How do we know that all the issues were resolved? There's maybe months and hundreds of emails. Was somebody keeping track of the open issues? And then who decided, okay, now we're ready to go to legal?
Yeah.
That that is what I focus on.
Yeah, true.
Um, Once you get to like the head of the spear, yes, that's exciting, and you can go do it. But
Yeah.
what about all the work before?
Yeah, true. True. I see the most adoption, the most and the least adoption with tools that allow firms to really create their own detailed playbooks. But then there's a big friction in, well, now we have to do all that work and we have to create all those playbooks if they don't have them. But like this is really the only way that you get AI to work for you and for your specific processes because it doesn't know. It was trained on the internet and it keeps on going back on general data that it was trained on. It keeps on going away from your specific way of doing things. So you got to really, really ground it. So I think when you're talking about how you're helping clients build the workflows, first processes foundation, documenting everything, and then workflows. Those are the workflows that run invisibly behind. They have some human touch points, but they're not open chatbots. And that's very interesting. I do believe that this is the way that you get out of any kind of system the most because you're constraining it with your specific requirements, but this does mean custom development. So how do you see that and at which point and how do you go about buy versus build?
Yeah. So it depends on what you're wanting to automate. If you're wanting to automate something like finance, or if you're wanting to automate something like to manage your litigation cases, which can then be connected with law firms, there are already products on the market that do these things. You might consider looking at them, see if it meets your needs. I did have one client who came to me. They said, we have a spreadsheet where we're tracking all of our litigation worldwide. I said, hell no, do not keep that in a spreadsheet. If you know anything about Excel, Excel is not a database. Excel is just an open thing where anybody with edit rights can make edits to anything. You can't restrict which columns that they can edit. You can't restrict which rows that they can see if they're in different countries, for example. You also you don't have a history. There's no history. Like all you see is what a cell says right now. What did it say yesterday? Who changed it? When? And the cell, maybe it asks for a date. Somebody came and typed in, I don't know, into your cell. Now you don't have data validation. You don't have data validation in Excel, right? And then on even further, you have escalation points. Like let's say that there's a column for financial risk. I want my people to set it to low, medium, or high. If somebody comes and sets it to high, which it can be changed at any time, right? A litigation at the very beginning, maybe you have some intake, but then at any point in the life cycle of this litigation, financial risk might be set to high by somebody randomly. I don't know when, but when it is set to high, finance needs to be notified to come look at this, make sure that this is in line, that it really should be have the risk set to high. And if there's something that you need to do, like go do a calculation, go check some other things, go make sure we have money in the bank to take care of it. I don't know what finance needs to do when the risk is set to high, but they need to be able to do it. And I would say you need to have records that they came and looked at it, because months from now, finance might come and say, who set that? We were not made aware. We didn't get to approve. We didn't go look at it. If you have a proper system, yes, you do. We have records finance. You came and you clicked I approve. You even made a little comment. We have it. We have the whole history of everything. So I built this for a client. We built it in SharePoint. I realized that this is a very, very general thing that companies, teams, they don't have resources. What they have is Excel. And they're like, ooh, I'm
Yeah.
just going to open and start an Excel spreadsheet. It starts very innocently. It's very easy at first, but then other departments hear about your spreadsheet and they're like, legal, can we add some finance columns to that spreadsheet? Can you give us edit rights also? And over time, you just have mass chaos. So I took this data tracking spreadsheet and I just applied some basic rules to it. Like viewers, first of all, you have to give viewer rights and edit rights to people. You can't just give edit rights of everything to everybody. And when you give a person edit rights, or I guess even view rights, you need to say like which country's litigation can they see. Like if you're coming from Germany, I only want you to see the German stuff. You don't need to see all the stuff worldwide. And if you're coming to look at it from a finance perspective, maybe there's some finance columns that I'll give you edit rights to, but you don't need to be able to edit the other department's columns, right? So yeah, I give you the proper rights to the proper thing, and you understand we're just talking about like countries and departments. Every company has these things, no matter what you're tracking. It doesn't have to be litigation. It can be anything else. Um, so yeah, we just created a life cycle that we identified who can start a new record. Is it just legal that can start a new litigation, or is it also like a lot of litigation starts in HR? I know because of employees starting things. So we gave HR the ability to create a new record. And when they click on the new button, oh, first of all, the home page looks like a giant spreadsheet. It looks like a spreadsheet, but you can't just go around editing stuff willy-nilly. You People with the rights to create a new record, there's a new button at the top. They click on new and it takes you to a page with a form, and you fill in with the form, and the form will ask like, what is this date? And instead of just being able to type in I don't know, there's a date picker. You pick a date. You don't get to type like, oh, 12/1, which in American, that's December 1st. But in Europe, that would be like the 12th of January. Like, no, we're not just going to let you type and we don't know what you typed, right? So it's a date picker. And you pick the date for that one. So we just went through like, what are all the different possibilities? How do you constrain people? Like if it says financial risk, low, medium, high, we give them a drop down. And we also identified which of these data pieces are mandatory from the very beginning. Like if you just leave something blank and we really need it, we're not going to allow you to submit. If you're like, well, I don't know, well, go find it out. You can't just put it on our spreadsheet, and we have empty data. If we have empty data, who's going to go follow up and find it? We don't know, right? So you just gotta like put this all in order.
Yeah.
So we did all this. We found all the escalation points. We identified every single finance person for every single country, and then all the different departments. We identified just all of this. I created this for this one company, and then I realized this isn't just a litigation thing. This is a spreadsheet thing. There are spreadsheets around every single company, all the departments, all the teams, and what they really need is to get to a database driven kind of a solution.
Mhm.
I am I am interested in like what AI could do to this. Like if I was to point my team's chaos spreadsheet at AI, would AI be able to figure out the processes? Because it
No.
doesn't know. It doesn't know.
No, and also AI is not able to read spreadsheets really. Like what happens is you have to uh, use a bit of OCR to convert them to text, and because spreadsheets and tables are so hard
So
to
hard.
consistently get right, it's also a very computationally heavy process. Like I've been working on a couple of projects when we were using OCR to process tables and spreadsheets, and it's like the inconsistencies between them are just. Imagine that it's 10% inaccurate. That on 10,000 documents means it
Uh-huh.
made a mistake 1,000 times. So, okay, like 10% is not that bad, right? But is it when you
Compound it.
convert it to numbers? So, yeah, that's one thing. And the other is like this. Now we're really talking about really hardcore custom engineering. This is most of the
Uh-huh.
patterns. And what you're talking about, this phenomena of spreadsheets, I think that was made even worse when Google Sheets arrived because they have even less security, even less possibility for you to control what happens, even less logging. They're gathering even less metadata. So if it comes to some sort of an unpleasant event of an e-discovery, you don't have anything to show, to prove. They're very open. And another thing I see is with Google Sheets, it's incredibly easy to build super small automations because you can literally put your JavaScript code into the sheet itself. However, it has so many limitations. Like if you connect to external systems, authentication, security, it's not there. It can only run 6 minutes. Imagine that you have to process 50,000 rows, which quickly becomes the thing, even with solo attorneys and smaller firms. It's just not possible, and you need a database-based approach. So what you're talking about, having a solution where it has both of best of both worlds, it has the nice UI that users can use easily, and then it also has all the benefits of a database-based solution, so you can literally control per field what is happening with who, what is getting
Mm-hmm.
written. That's really a super useful solution. And you see, you don't have to get complex to really bring massive
Don't.
value. And for that whole product to be kind of useful over the range of smaller, bigger firms, it's really yeah, something universal, I think.
One of the ways that that companies get around this and they keep using the spreadsheets is that they will say, okay, we will lock down this spreadsheet. Maybe we give everybody view rights, but if anybody has data that needs to be changed, email the spreadsheet owner. The spreadsheet owner, then, that's their full-time job, just receiving emails, updating things in a spreadsheet. And I say that's a worthless full-time job. I'm sorry. That's the first job that needs to be automated. Yeah, the first thing that you might think about is why don't we just open this up for everybody in the company to go make edits on that spreadsheet? Then you get rid of the middleman. But what you just lost was data integrity. You just lost it all. So and I did have a client, I think it was even this client that I'm talking about when I made this project. Their first request was, can you help us put in place AI that will listen to my emails so that when somebody
Yeah.
says, can you go update this cell, and then have it update the cell.
Ooh.
And
Like
so yeah.
yeah, woo. Like I'm saying woo because like one
Oh
thing is
no,
building a product like this. Okay, okay, and you test it a few times and it seems it's doing good.
it's gonna
How
break.
do you know it runs 24/7? It reads emails that you don't because it's not flagged anymore. So like you trust it.
Uh-huh.
How do you know how well it works? Can you put it in percentage? How many mistakes did it make? Because if you cannot, like you shouldn't be even thinking about a project like this. But sorry for interrupting you.
Okay.
It brought so many battle scars.
So this is where somebody like you and I bring a lot of value, because customers don't know actually what they want. The customer there said, can you automate my emails? When that's not even the right question. The
Yeah,
question is, can you automate the data going in and out of a spreadsheet?
yeah,
So if we were just to take their first question and we automate the emails, now we automatically are sending and receiving, I don't know, millions of these emails that nobody wants to receive. And like you said, there's a failure rate that is greater than zero, and it compounds over time, to where you get eventually there's 100% chance that there's going to be a problem somewhere. So so yeah, by saying like, let's not jump to AI. Let's look at the actual process. Let's put the basics in place. You don't even need AI. I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. True. And you know, today we're all talking about not all of us. You're talking sanity, but a lot of the conversation out there today is about autonomous agents and just having these
Uh-huh.
endless conversations with all our databases and stuff. One thing that I was working on when I was in an enterprise that was before in fintech, we were trying to figure out the customer support ticketing systems and how AI can bring value. Of course, first we went into chatbots used by internal teams, so nothing was customer facing. The reputation was a big thing in fintech. So in that sense, we figured out that the best way to bring value to even to the conversation that the customer support agent is having with a customer, the best way to bring value is to break it down into workflows that you can control. So one workflow does one thing, and you build workflows one on top of the other. And you don't say AI do this, but you do it everything the same as you did before programmatically. You just plug AI on that one non-risky part where a decision needs to be made that cannot be parsed programmatically. This is where AI brings the most value. Everything else is a research innovation project, and that's okay. And I have a lot to say about this. We can go into the details because it's very interesting, and I'm also trying a lot of things myself. But let's face it, when it comes to bringing value to real world, or when it comes to experimenting how far we can get, those are two very, very different things. Yeah, uh, workflows, and not
I,
open-ended, yeah, blank pieces of paper.
I also think in terms of interfaces.
Yeah,
So, like, no matter if I was to come to your chatbot, if I was to call a customer service person, if I was to meet with you face to face, because I know you and I have a meeting, in my mind, it should be pretty much the same experience. You're going to go through the same script. You're getting the same data points. We're going along the same data journey. Um, I also like to remember, let people approach your system in the way that's comfortable for them. So, like, my grandma might not want to talk to a chatbot or even call somebody or go on the internet. She might want to, like, I don't know, send a letter through the mail because that's what she's used to. She
yeah,
knows, oh, it's secure. A human will respond to me. Why not? Why not have an interface through the mail or something? Maybe you have a bot that's like scanning the handwritten letter into an email or something, and then it's into your flow. But then when it comes back to the grandma, maybe you have another bot that like hand writes it out and like sends it through the mail. But like, yeah, I love having interfaces for people wherever they are, wherever they're most comfortable. Like as a lawyer, I loved having my solutions like in Outlook or in Word. A
yeah.
salesperson might want it to be in like Salesforce, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is where you're gonna get adoption because if you're gonna force them to use something else, they're just not gonna use it. Why do you prefer working with in-house, or how did it come to never working with law firms?
Uh, my experience is in-house, right? I have the experience of knowing how they do their work, that it's chaotic, that they don't have systems and processes that they would like to have. Law firms, I see, are very much like traditional. They don't want to
Hmm.
change. They're going to do things the way things have always been done. They're also not incentivized to create efficiency because that means they lose money in the billable
Yeah,
hour. In-house is different. Like you save me time, that's great. Thank you.
yeah,
Also, maybe even the in-house team isn't interested in efficiency and saving money. You know who is? The chief financial officer,
Hmm.
the CFO, who gives the budget. So everybody else might put pressure on to the legal department saying, look, you guys need to work it more efficiently. You need to work in a better way for us. So you
yeah,
might approach other departments and ask them, hey, do you need help when it comes to reaching out to legal? Is it difficult? Is there like not a process for how to do it? And they're like, yeah, it sucks. I hate it every time. Legal does have a reputation. If ever you're in sales and you have to involve a lawyer, you just lost your deal because now your deal is going to be delayed by like 6 months and you
yeah,
just lost your deal. Time is money.
yeah. Would you say we read a lot about there was an MIT research about the adoption? There's industry
Mhm.
papers from the big consulting firms. There was one from Thomson Reuters about the adoption in law firms, big ones, small ones, and solo attorneys in UK. What can you tell us from your sole experience working with in-house teams? Are most of them already jumping full on with AI tools?
No, they're not.
Okay, interesting. That's an interesting point. I thought that the answer is going to be yes. They're trying all over. They're trying all different sorts of stuff, but you would say no. Okay.
They're being cautious. They're looking to see who's doing other things. When I do see companies that are adopting AI, a lot of what I'm seeing is they're doing it for marketing. They're getting it to be able to say, "Look, we're AI powered, so
Hmm.
customers, you should come use us." It's a marketing thing. If you ask them, "What are you actually doing with AI?" they'll say, "Not much," or "We don't even know what to do with it." So in this case, I would say you need to figure out your use cases. You don't start with the tool, you start with the problem. You need to identify the problem that you're trying to solve, and then you can use the appropriate tool,
Yeah.
which could be many things. Maybe you can do it manually, and maybe that's cheaper than bringing in an AI kind of tool. Maybe the AI tool is magic, but it's going to cost a ton of money, a lot more than just hiring a person to do it manually. So you do the analysis, find the right tools, define the problem. A lot of companies they have like an innovation manager. So the innovation manager's job is to find problems and to find solutions. I talk with the innovation managers. They say that they don't know the problems that their people are dealing with. They sit in an office. They don't know what it is that everybody does.
Yeah.
So what they often do is surveys. They'll ask people, what are your pain points? What do you wish you didn't have to do? And then
Yeah.
a person
Right.
will just say, I wish I didn't have to answer this email from sales or whatever. Now the innovation manager has to go ask sales. What kinds of emails are you sending to this lawyer? Do you think we can put in place a form so you're not sending emails so we can get data or whatever. So you have to identify the problem, what people want to change, and then you have to identify the groups that are involved. I created one of my solutions that I created for a company was an ideas platform. So I came to them and said, "Look, I'm here to solve your problems for you." They said, "We don't know our own problems. Can you help us identify our problems?" And I said, "Great. That's going to be a lot of interviews, sitting down with people, hours and hours, and like weeks, and we don't know at what point do we say we're done, or do we keep? There's always another group you can interview for even more details, right? So that's kind of an open-ended thing that consultants can do to make a lot of money, but now they know their problem without a solution. The solution's not even done yet. So they said, we don't have the time and money for that. Is there a different way? So I built an ideas platform. So I made it on SharePoint, and anybody in the department can just go and create an idea. And there's a list of all of these ideas, and you can click on an idea, and it goes to an individual page. You can read the summary, the description, and anybody looking at it can give a thumbs up to the idea, and they can subscribe. And then there's a box underneath with like a chat history. And so anytime anybody updates, they put a thing in the chat. Everybody who's subscribed receives a notification that, hey, this person added something. So now you notice we just expanded. We made this organic. There's no more surveys. There's also because this is on SharePoint, there's a folder where anybody can go and they can drop files into there, like all the background. The team then, everybody that's subscribed, they can email each other through there and say, let's meet on this day at this time. Here's the URL to meet. And they can meet. And they can have agendas, they can discuss things, they can come to conclusions, they can design the solution that would solve their problem. And with all those thumbs ups, now if I'm an innovation manager, I can see exactly the problems that everybody wants fixed. I can see the ones that are most popular. I can see the ones where everybody is participating, because you need to get everybody's perspective. Everybody has a different perspective on the problem. If I was to meet with just one person how to solve a problem, and then we solved it, guess what? We didn't solve the actual problem. We solved the problem from that one angle. Okay? So now as an innovation manager, I have all this data, all this stats. Now I can take it to my general counsel and be like, look, here's the top 3 problems. These are really big problems, but they're simple to fix. It's really, really cheap. We only have to change a handful of people's behavior and we'll have massive impact. And those handful of people that need to change their behavior, they've been participating in the discussions. They want this change. They are going to adopt it.
Yeah.
So this is how I would go about.
Yeah.
Identify the problem.
Yeah. If I try to draw a parallel to smaller firms not knowing their problems, so what we started doing with MPL Advisors, which we kind of just launched also the website a couple of weeks ago, is we run those 2-week risk and opportunity assessments. And we end it with a small workshop for the stakeholders. But what is very interesting over the past, almost 10 now that we did, was that we had the first meeting with the partners where they already were dabbling with AI and they had a good understanding of what they needed. And we focused on mapping the processes and thinking about the goals, thinking about their clients, and figuring out the pain points that are really specific to them, right? In the end, all the workshops ended up with recommendation what to do next. And it's like what is technically feasible compared to what is the impact of the pain, of the problem. What brings the biggest value. And none of them ended aligned. So they thought they needed this. In the end, the problems that surfaced were completely something else, something super obvious that nobody was thinking about, something much simpler to achieve. And I understand when you're talking about big organizations, you have to do all those interviews and it becomes unfeasible because it's an endless rabbit hole. You go into loops. Oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? So you're prioritizing, let's say in 5 categories, you're prioritizing 100 use cases. So that's impossible. In your the solution that you thought of was ingenious. I think that the biggest feature there, that the biggest impact had the like button. So you actually were able to see how big is the priority based on the pain points that people are actually experiencing. So that's a very smart solution. And exactly. Knowing your problems, being able to define them quickly, at least in a decent amount of time, that is everything, because otherwise nothing works. Normal automation, AI automation, it doesn't really make sense. Yeah. And
I can offer this solution for free to my clients, and it does nothing but benefit to me, right?
Yeah.
Now I can see like hundreds of projects that they need done and we already have all the details. We know who's involved. We know how popular it is. We know how simple it is. We have
Yeah,
our top three, and now they can come to me, and I'm ready to work for them.
yeah, yeah, because you already know their problems. Because you kind of, yeah, no, that's a very, very, very smart way to go about this.
I'm thinking about offering this solution to consultants also. Like I could sell it to you, and then you give it on to your clients, and it only brings more work to you.
Yeah,
It
oh,
helps
very smart.
everybody.
I think that,
Some things that I've seen with law firms can really focus because I also have my own podcast,
yeah,
also called Automate
yeah,
Office Work, and I bring on lawyers that are automating things in law firms. The things that they are automating are usually client facing. Like one lady, it was automating legal with Sarah Brownhill. I think it was episode like 23 on the podcast. But she said she worked in litigation in the UK for car crashes. She worked in that for 20 years. She found a startup that was creating an app that is now sold to law firms in the UK. The law firms buy this app and then they offer it for free to all of their clients. And the app is then used by the clients when they are in a car crash. So the law firm says, if you are in a car crash, just open this app on the phone. It goes through step by step everything that you need to do. There's all the forms, all the interviews. You take pictures, you take videos, you take pictures of where you're injured, and you tell us all this. And they said, when you click submit, all of this data goes to our law firm. It is able to then analyze and tell us exactly what needs to be done, which court filings need to be done, what kind of medical assessments need to be done, and we can even make the appointments with you through the app. So you don't need to come into our law firm because to the average normal person, lawyers are scary. And so that's their target person was not your like high sophisticated person. It was any working person who might not even have like a high reading level. So they put the app, the app would even have like AI do a conversation with them on the person's level, like getting the data points.
it's a
It
great
would
news.
schedule
Yeah,
everything for them.
yeah,
So now these law firms, they have like tens of thousands of new clients for all of these little car crashes.
yeah, yeah.
And they couldn't do that without technology and AI.
I love that this story is rooting back to you need to have your processes in place. You need to connect the dots, and you should use computers and AI to do just that because this is exactly where we're missing. These are our pain points today, and most of the firms have them, no matter how big. So we should be focusing on using technology for that and not for all of those. Let's get AI to do my work as a lawyer. No, that is very interesting because everything that
I don't
we've
know.
been talking about today is very, very deterministic. You're drawing and grounding back to sanity, and in from that perspective, because we can't deny we're like in this big, big bubble, big hype that is happening right now. So, how do you see this playing out in say, let's next 2 years?
Yes, you mentioned we're in a hype bubble, and I think it's demonstrable. There's way too much investment chasing way too few consumer dollars. That I think I even read it would take like 100 years for investors to recoup their investment. Like that's not mathematically possible, and the investors are going to start going elsewhere. Which once they start taking out their money, then the bubble bursts, and there's going to be carnage. We could lose like 99% of the AI companies. Only 1% are left. And then we're going to have some interesting things. It'll be like the dot-com bubble. Yes, a lot of these little companies that had no value, they went away. But then the real ones that had value, like Google and Amazon, they're still around now. And they went on to build something incredible. So
Yeah.
yeah, AI is here to stay. We're gonna find out what is hype and what's not, and then we're gonna be learning how to use it over the next 5, 10, or 20 years, just like we did with the internet. And it's the future is going to be amazing. We just have to learn how to get there.
No, I love that. I love the take. Just one thing I wanted to add was I love the comparison with an internet bubble. We can do a slight one with blockchain bubble, although in blockchain there was a bit of a different thing. We didn't see a company with that much political power being
Uh-huh.
involved in it. So it's going to be interesting how to play out, but I really like your take. I think it's going to be the same. Let's see.
I tell people that a lot of the AI news, like things that are coming out and it's flashy and it's supposed to shock you and just make you like be like, wow. I tell people that we are not the audience of this marketing. The real audience is investors. The companies are trying to get money from investors. What do investors want? Investors want easy money. Where can I put my money that it's going to double it and I get fast money? That's all the investor cares about. The investor doesn't care about efficiency and making work easier. No, they just want money at the end of the day. And so every few years, like you just pointed out, there's a new technology to get the money from the investors. That's what this is
Yeah.
ultimately. So when people say like, yeah, there was just this newspaper article or an ad, and it said that Google or whoever just made this amazing thing that's going to revolutionize our whole lives. I'm telling them like, don't be shocked when you don't see it come around. Like that's
Yeah.
for the investors. It's not for you.
That's a
It's
great.
what you need. What you need to do is separate the reality from the fiction. Find out what actually works and use it for you. Also, get ready because in the future, when there's something that needs to have workflows and organized data, you need to be ready to use it. You
Sorry,
might
I
be
was
one of
going
the
to.
99% of the companies that also goes away.
Yeah. You know, that's a
All
great
right.
point to end on because I just read a stat the other day that ChatGPT has, based on the most optimistic calculations, 5 to 6% paid users. The number is not very different when it comes to other AI providers such as Anthropic, Google, only that they only have a fraction of ChatGPT's or an
Uh-huh.
OpenAI's market. So
It's the
when it
biggest
comes
one.
back down to Anthropic, which is the smallest out of the big AI providers, they only have 3 million paid users. And we're talking about the most disruptive technology that is going to replace everyone's job. I don't think so. We're very far away. So, yeah, thank you, Justin, for this super grounded conversation. I really enjoyed
My
this one.
pleasure.
I like your view, and I hope that I wish you all the best with the podcast and with all your ventures in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate finding another person who appreciates my voice. I think we need more voices like ours.
Yeah, hopefully we can do that sometimes in the future as well.
All right.
Have a good one. So, the biggest lessons from this conversation with Justin are first, map your processes. Then, create your data foundation. After that, you can remove the office work, and only then you can consider AI. Maybe. And that's how you save hours without risking malpractice or wasting money. If you want a quick pressure check, we run 2-week risk and opportunity assessments. Book your call in the link in the description. And if you like this episode, hit the like button and follow along. We have an interesting lineup in the following weeks. Enjoy your Saturday and see you in the next one.